This is the brand new Hoonitruck, and it looks pretty awesome. But how well does it throw down? Well, today we'll unbox a truck, check out all it has to offer, and then we'll take it outside and drive it. Now, if you're not familiar with the Hoonitruck, it's a one-off 900 plus horsepower street machine created by the guys at Hoonigan Racing. Now, the Hoonitruck was made to have a role in the video Gym Gahana 10, and then it later starred in Climb Gahana 2. Both of those videos are here on YouTube and free to watch. What's interesting is that there was only one Hoonitruck made, and Ken Block from Hoonigan Racing recently sold it for $1.1 million. Or another way to think about it is roughly $1,200 for every 1 horsepower, which makes that a pretty expensive toy. If you happen to be the person who bought the real Hoonitruck, congratulations, man. That is awesome. But if you're not, this is the officially licensed RC Hoonitruck from Team Associated, and it looks fantastic. Now, when you get the RC Hoonitruck, it's ready to run out of the box with the chassis and the electronics configured and the Hoonitruck body painted and detailed. The only requirements to get it up and running are 4 AA batteries for the transmitter and a battery pack for the truck. But there are 2 Hoonitruck versions available, one without the battery and the charger, and the more expensive second version, which includes them. Now, there are no other differences between the 2 versions, and both include the scale replica Hoonitruck body that comes looking awesome right out of the box. The body is your typical RC Lexan polycarbonate shell that's been pre-painted and has had plastic molded parts attached for more detail and realism. Now, if we go to the front of the body, the front bumper and bottom lip are part of the Lexan body, whereas the front grille is a hard plastic detail attached from the inside. You might notice a decal behind that front grille and decals over the headlight lenses. Behind those decals though, those lenses are proper light buckets that you can fit LEDs if you wanted to add them separately from the inside. Moving up, we get to our flat black hood, which is a full decal covering it. Attached are 2 molded plastic turbos that sit recessed in the hood with carbon fiber framing around them. And the center of the hood features a molded engine intake. The windshield also features a full decal to tint and trim the window with the slogan, "Kill all tires." If we follow that to the roof, it's similar to the hood, featuring a full flat black appearance and double O's. Now, on the side of the body are more decals, including the Hoonigan H in the front blinker area, followed by wide front fenders. Behind them are the hard plastic exhaust pieces, and they're on each side, but this is attached to a secondary Lexan piece that's attached to the primary body. Now, this is just done to get the tight angles and the curves for this fender because Lexan doesn't want to mold like that. Now, it's important that the fender cuts off in the back to let those shredded tire pieces escape. Behind that exhaust, you'll find more Hoonigan details, plus another window decal to trim and tint it. The last thing to show here are the 2 molded plastic running boards that are attached to each side running that full length, and they offer help a little bit more realism, and they stiffen up the Lexan sides. Now, moving back from those boards are the rear fenders, and again, just like the front, they're really wide, and again, they're made using a secondary Lexan peach attached to get the proper lines of the fender cutting off so that rubber can fly free. One last tint and trim decal is used on that back window, where you'll also find the silver rear cage that makes up most of the rear of the truck. On the real truck, this bed area is fully open, but since that can't be done on the RC version, a decal mimicking the look is used instead. The rear wing though is the real deal, and it looks just like the aluminum wing used on the real truck, and it's a hard plastic accessory attached from the inside with decals added to it. The last bit of Hoonitruck scale realism on this body is the rear end with another Hoonigan decal under the wing and large Ford branding on the tailgate. That's how the body comes out of the box. But there are a few other little scale bits and details that you can add yourself if you want to. For instance, included are these molded side mirrors and the mirror decals, but they're not installed. So you'll need to open up the bag that's included, install the decals on the mirrors, and then install the mirrors on the body in the existing holes. Then you slide on the plastic retainer and lock it in place with a drop of CA glue. The same applies for the antenna. Although on our body, the antenna hole wasn't popped on the hood, so we use a body hole reamer to make it and then installed it. There are a few other detailed decals included to use at your will, including the brake caliper decals, because these are hard plastic discs and calipers behind the wheel. Now with a 7mm nut wrench, the wheel comes right off, and these wheels' tires look pretty good, intended to look the part of the real truck. Now the rubber treaded tires are glued to that white wheel with foam inserts inside, and there's vent holes for the wheel on the inside of it. These wheels feature a 12mm hex, so any tent scale TC style wheel with a 12mm hex will fit. And swapping out to different tires is easy, and we actually do it later on to help us get sideways, but that's later on. Now before we get to that, let's check out the rest of this Hoonitruck chassis, formerly called the Apex 2 from Team Associated. Now this chassis is pretty standard. It's a tent scale on-road electric platform that's all-wheel drive. It has independent suspension throughout, and it uses front and rear gear differentials. In fact, these front and rear gearbox clips are exactly the same, using the same parts, minus the bumper attached and the top brace on the other side. With the suspension, the upper and lower arms, the hubs, the steering blocks, they're also all the same, shared at each of the corners. Other features include the plastic oil-filled shocks with threaded adjustable collars. There's a G10 fiberglass chassis, a nice big old foam bumper to absorb those hits, and an easy-to-use Velcro strip battery box. But it will only fit shorty LiPo batteries. Another really important feature on the Hoonitruck is the metal drivetrain used throughout, with a metal center drive shaft and metal dog bones used on each corner. All of the outdrives are also metal to last as long as possible, with the exception of the two outdrives used in the center. The power system connected to that drivetrain is the Reedy SC500X speed controller, and that's got a T-style battery connector. The motor is a Reedy 15-turn modified, and it's a 550 can size, and it's 3-pole. For the steering servo, it's a Reedy 1523 MG metal gear servo. All right, how fast is the Hoonitruck? Well, we tested it. First with a fresh 2-cell LiPo battery installed and our GPS speed meter stuck to the truck, and we sent it. After a couple of passes, we realized a top speed of 17 miles an hour. Next, we removed that 2-cell LiPo and replaced it with a more powerful 3-cell LiPo and tried again. This time, the extra battery power provided us with a top speed of 27 miles an hour. So, using a 3-cell battery provides a pretty good jump in speed, but take note, you may need to gear down on the motor pinion gear for 3S LiPo use, as recommended here in the manual, but it depends a lot on the conditions like the outside temperature. We did not gear down for our 3S test, but it was a cool day outside, so when we tested the motor temps, they were all right. Had it been really hot outside, we would have needed to gear down to keep that motor temperature in the safe zone. Now, getting the motor out of the car is pretty dang easy. If you do need to service and access this area, you just remove the screws from the top cap and then the plate behind it, and it lifts up. The motor plate is aluminum, and it uses this drive gear attached to the plate, and then you set your pinion gear mesh to this gear. Now, there is no center differential or slipper in here. The spur gear is directly attached to this aluminum spool. If this doesn't suit your application, Team Associated offers a center gear differential optionally if you want to add that. Now, driving the Hoonitruck is quite the experience, and it's all about how it looks while driving. On a parking lot pavement surface, we found that the rubber tires had a good amount of grip, and the vehicle is subject to body roll, leaning around or back and forth as you accelerate or brake. Turning is pretty sharp, and if you get on the gas while turning, the truck will definitely start to drift out on you, pulling some pretty impressive power slides or even donuts if that's what you're going for. Controlling the power slides is a little tricky, and it's all about finesse. We had a good time bashing it around though. It's really quick and responsive, and that all-wheel drive experience is kind of what you'd expect it to be. One thing we especially enjoyed though was jumping off these pavement waves that are caused by the tree roots underneath, but it did cause us to break off the red plastic brake calipers from both rear tires. Now, the pavement experience is fun, but the best experience that we had with the Hoonitruck came from when we drifted it around and took it to our drift track, which is only possible after we installed optional drift tires, which is exactly what we did. Once we did this, the Hoonitruck just came alive on this drift track, sliding and getting sideways with ease, begging you to give it more power, and we gladly did. Now we discovered that for the slower drifting and power slide type of driving, a slower 2-cell LiPo is definitely going to be better to maintain your control. On the open pavement environment where you're just going to bash around, the faster 3-cell LiPo is definitely the ticket. Either way, the Hoonitruck is an awesome reproduction in RC form, and the body looks fantastic. I can see the Hoonitruck being popular with anyone who is a Ken Block or a Hoonigan racing fan, or maybe even a collector. Shoot, it would even be a great first RC car. Although, the Hoonitruck is more expensive than similar cars in this category. It's not 1.1 million, but if you want the Hoonitruck, this is the only one in the world for sale. Whoa, hold up, time out. We just realized we forgot to mention that this body is a great fit for other touring cars or maybe a drifter. Like this RMX 2.0, it'll fit right on there no problem. Once you pop some new body mount holes, there is a clear body version coming. It's pretty dialed. Guys, go check out the Hoonitruck and everything else in our video with our links down below. And if you want more RC, check out these videos.